Okay. All right. I'm Devin. I worked on this student game called Octodad, and I'm going to talk about kind of what that game's about and the tech of his Ragdoll body. Has anyone played Octodad here? No. Heard of it at all? All right. I'll go through a little introduction to what it is. So what is Octodad for most of you who hasn't played it? He's not like Octomom. He doesn't have 8 kids. He actually has 2 kids, and they are human kids, which is weird. But he is an octopus and a father. He's also a caring husband, and he's a secret octopus in that everyone in his world thinks that he is a human being, except for his archenemy, the sushi chef. So the whole game, you're trying to do human-like activities, so your family doesn't discover that you're really an octopus, and that's awkward. And the sushi chef's trying to prove you're an octopus, so he's always trying to prove that. I made this game with 16 other people when I was at University of DePaul in Chicago. We entered it into the Independent Games Festival for the student competition in 2010. Is anyone familiar with Independent Games Festival at all? What that is? So basically a yearly award ceremony for the best independently developed games. And we didn't win Best Student Game, but we were one of the finalists for Best Student Game. And we were really surprised by the reaction we got to our game. It was a lot more popular than we ever thought it would be. So the way he works, so a game, when you're just doing normal human activities like doing dishes and mopping the floor, that'd be pretty boring by most gamers' standards, I think. But what makes the game interesting is you're an octopus and you physically have to control his tentacles to do all these activities, and it's incredibly difficult to do the simplest tasks. So he's kind of controlled like a marionette with a mouse, and there's 2 modes for walking and for grabbing things, so you switch to which tentacle you're using. So we got a lot more attention than we thought. We have 320,000 views of our trailer, and 150,000 people downloaded the free version of the game. We got on a couple of sites, and like I said, we got on IGF. What's been really fun is like playthroughs of the game on YouTube, which have been really funny to watch. I don't know if you guys are familiar with any of these games, but it's similar to. Has anyone played QWOP? Yeah. It's kind of like a 3D QWOP is the easiest way to describe it, with a mouse instead of the keyboard. There's an old game called Jurassic Park Trespasser. Is anyone familiar with that game? We were not a lot of us had played that game, but we were kind of inspired by like the grabbing element in that game, which is very awkward, and like you have to like physically hold things. And a great quote that is related to our game about Jurassic Park Trespasser is, it's incredibly hard to just hold items in that game. Something in real life is easy yet difficult in the game, which is kind of like our philosophy behind Octodad and his world. Other games were Minotaur China Shop, where you're a Minotaur in a China shop and you have to take medicine or else you freak out and break your inventory. And Nobi Boy is made by the guy who made, what is that game called? Yeah, Katamari Damacy. It's a weird game where you're a tentacle boy and you can wrap around things. And it's kind of, we played that when we were developing his body. So this is the physics version of what Octodad looks like. In his original incarnation for the first game, he's very interesting. We wanted to use soft body physics for some reason. We ended up using the library PhysX because it had soft body. So he's made up of a bunch of different parts. His legs are soft body objects connected to these big feet that are just balls, and then his arms actually is like a chain of capsules, and then his body is just a cube, and it's all connected together. And then there's another inner chain to block some collisions for his legs. Let me play a trailer so you guys have more idea what the game's like.
I know you've been working late in the basement. Night out, eh?
Until you get past my gauntlet of awesome challenges, I'm holding your fancy dinner suit hostage.
Daddy, help! I went to take my nap, but Tommy told me there were monsters in my room.
So, as you can see, all this is controlled by the mouse, and you switch legs and walk with the mouse.
I think you're busted. You are so real. Better than the fish that sharks and even the kangaroo. Because love you.
That's what the game's like. Although it's much more difficult than that probably made it look like. We also made a costume. It's a thing we made. Okay, so I'm just gonna go like a really brief overview of 3D physics and ragdolls. I don't know what your guys' background is, so this might be too simple or too over your head. I'll try. So in 3D physics, the basic collision types that are fast are cubes, spheres, and capsules, which are all very fast to determine collisions. And if you want more advanced things, convex holes. So oftentimes you have to turn your 3D models into multiple convex meshes because you can't really use a concave surface very easily. And the way things move in 3D space is, I'm sure you all know there's XYZ coordinates. That's what 3D is. But the way things move is through translation and rotation of those XYZ axes. The way physics are resolved is integrating mass to acceleration, and then you get a velocity, and you can add that to the position to translate it, and you can do the same thing for rotation. Yeah, it's all much more complicated than that, but you don't have to really know any of that to have fun with physics libraries. And then if you want to make a ragdoll, you have to constrain a bunch of physical objects somehow. You do that through joints and constraints. And there's lots of different joints you can create. Mostly they're different variations of constraining the 3 translations and rotations you can do. So like my elbow, for instance, only has one swing direction. And so if you wanted to create an elbow-like joint, you'd have to constrain 2 objects, like 2 bones, and you'd have to limit that to one swing direction. To make a rope-like object which is Octodad's made up of a lot of ropes basically, is basically a ball and socket joint, which is similar to a lot of your joints as a human, but he's not as constrained. But making a bunch of ball and socket joints together kind of simulates a rope-like effect, like a chain link thing that has more twist. His arms were made out of a bunch of joints. On the first game, we're working on a second game, which I'll get to later, but so we wanted to use this soft body physics because it was exciting and more advanced, and no games really use soft body physics because it's not really that useful for a lot of things, but it looks cool to have jelly-like objects and things like that. It's kind of similar to just using joints and constraints in that, like, as you can kind of see in this picture, well, not really well, but like the simplest way to create a soft body-like object is to like just connect a bunch of spheres on springs to like a center point, and then if you throw that, it would behave like a Jello sphere, basically. So you can create soft body-like effects through different methods that are that simple and more complicated. I think PhysX uses. I'm not an engineer of physics by any means, but the finite element method is used in PhysX and real simulations, which basically, like, it takes your triangle mesh, which is the art mesh, which is made up of a bunch of triangles, and makes that 3D by representing it kind of as like a triangular grid of 3D tetrahedron, and then all the points and vertices on the tetrahedron, it has to calculate forces and deformation that way, which is, it's kind of just a more complicated version of having springs and connecting all the birds by springs. But that's a Brad Pitt bat there. So our first game was pretty successful for a student game and a free game, like I said. So a lot of us graduated and we wanted to go do something with that. So we did a Kickstarter earlier this year. Do you guys know what Kickstarter is? Yeah? All right. So a lot of people don't, so it's always hard to explain it. So we did Kickstarter and we ended up getting $26,000 to make a sequel, which is pretty cool. Not nearly enough money to fund a 2-year game like development with 8 people, but still it's something. So we started a company called Young Horses to make this second game. And this is basically the new Octodad, more polished. And our new game is Octodad Dadliest Catch. That's the title before we get sued by the Discovery Channel. Just to compare, so for the old game, this was the physics representation. As you can see, his torso wasn't very interesting. It had like an animation on it, but it was just basically a cube, and that's how it would react to things. So for the new game, we've gotten a lot more advanced. So his body is made up of a lot of different things. Even he has mustache physics, which I think is cool. Like, so his mustache physically bounces around and stuff. We ended up ditching the soft body things because it was weird just having soft body legs, and they just were kind of glitchy. So we ended up making his legs like his arms and actually giving him feet. Everything. The problem is having this many joints in a ragdoll becomes very high computationally. So, like on my MacBook Pro, my new MacBook Pro, it takes like at least 3 milliseconds to resolve his joint simulations, which is really a lot of time when you only have 16 milliseconds to get 60 FPS. So we also have a lower detail version for the new game to allow lower-end hardware to run him. So you guys might be wondering, like, that's how like his body is physically, but how do you connect that to like the artistic representation? So I don't know if anyone does any sort of 3D modeling at all. No. Well, so basically, once the 3D model is created, to do animations, you have to create a skeleton, and it's made up of joints like a real skeleton, and it's for Octodad, he's basically mapped 55 of his joints to the physics joints. And so you basically just have to tell the rendering engine that the new positions of the joints, like you would in animate. And that basically an animation does the same thing. It tells you the new transformation of all his joints. So in that way, you can make him a ragdoll, and he reacts physically, and it looks pretty cool. So for how he's controlled is kind of interesting. So, and this is just a wall of text. And whenever someone plays our game on YouTube, it's really funny to watch them get to the control screen because there's like, what the fuck? They just look at this controls, and it's kind of terrifying. So basically, when you're in the mouse mode, when you're in the arms mode, you just move the mouse, and it's in like this plane. Like if I'm moving the mouse, my arm would actually do this. If I hold down the right click, then my arm can suddenly like move in this plane, and then that way you can move in full 3D space to grab items if you left click on stuff. When you switch to legs mode by pressing the middle mouse button, then if you hold down left click, he starts lifting his leg up, and you can move it in a flat plane and then let go, and he walks. And that way, just kind of like co-op, you can physically walk him around. And it's really funny when you haven't played before, because like even if it's not your thing, just like trying it, you're like, what the hell am I doing right now? And it's really interesting. I got some more things to show you. So I was talking about how to get the physics to show up for the graphics. So I made a video of some of the horrors that happened during that process from the first game to the second game. And I'll show you that now. So, what's that?
Right there.
Oh, that was the suspicion bar. So in the game, you're trying to do normal human things. So there's different objects that are suspicious. If you knock over a bunch of vases, your suspicion goes up if people see you. It wasn't implemented very well in the first game, but it did. Like we kept a lot of that. So it's kind of like parts of it are like a stealth game, and that you have to like do things carefully. But a lot of the fun is destroying things. So we try and encourage other parts to do that. That's what that bar is. So a lot of horrible things end up showing up when you're trying to get things to work right with a bunch of 3D transformations. So that's the gist of it. You can download the game for free, the first game, at octodadgame.com if you want to try it out. I can answer any questions you guys might have about Octodad or game development.
When you spelled the high, the whole ID tomorrow, those are the tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, the game was
I mean, slightly, but like the parts that you're controlling are like you're really only controlling like one point at the tip of his arm and the tip of his leg, so it's very similar. It's mostly like just for it's mostly just for like visual and like physical fidelity, but it doesn't affect the gameplay too much. But it looks much better to have more effects. It's just we might do that later, but and it's just in the options right now. It's like a graphical setting. You can switch his physics details for the new game. Yeah. It was C++. We used the open source rendering engine Irrlicht. We use PhysX, which is free for Windows, Mac, Linux. And we use fmod for sound. Yeah. Oh, the artists use Maya mostly. Yeah. But you could do all of it in Blender if you know Blender really well. But mostly Maya. Probably like $15. I think it's probably gonna be like a 4-hour game, so to get through the entire game, and there'll be like there'll be challenge levels you can replay and stuff. We have a teaser of the new game I can show you, which is what that glitch song was from. I guess might have made sense to play that one first. We wanted to have a lot more facial animation in the new game, so you can be sad now. Yeah, if you have any other questions, you can email me at devin@octodadgame.com or hit me on Twitter at devinsoft. All right. Yeah?
I wish I had played the game now.
Yeah.
I saw it on a website, I think.
Yeah.
I read about a lot of games, but never get around to playing.
Yeah, that happens a lot. There's so many of them. Like, I'm the same way. Yeah, no, yeah. If you guys want to play the newer game, we have a demo of it running at the Art Glitchware. Did I say that right? I don't. Glitch Artware. I'm ruining it. Art Glitchware, artware for glitch, right? Glitch. Yeah, but if you want to play the game, just head over at the Glitch Artware booth, and it's up for play. There's a bunch of other indie games over there too that Jake has kindly set up. So.
Are you going to play over there?
Yeah, yeah. I guess there's a speed run on YouTube of like 7 minutes, which I can't beat, but I don't know, I'm pretty bad at video games, but everyone who plays our game thinks I'm really good, but I play it all the time, so. In his favor?
Like, it seems like being an octopus is awful.
I mean, if you like being awful, maybe. Like I mean, he's probably really good at like unclogging like a toilet or something. But
You know what I mean, though? Like, there's never any point story in the game where, like, the control is more effective.
than just if you were walking around. Yeah, no. Well, there's a moment in the new game we haven't done yet where he's gonna like go back to the aquarium and leave his family, and like everyone hates me, and he's gonna swim around, and then the controls get like really easy because he's an octopus again. And he can do things really easily. But then he learns that. Well, you'll have to find out what he learns.
Good teaser.